Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Building Digital Citizens. Today's program is sponsored by NetRef, a powerful internet management tool that helps keep students on task and helps educators determine the true ROI of EdTech investments. Before we begin the webinar, I'll review just a few quick housekeeping items. We will be accepting questions throughout the webinar, and we'll hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. You can go ahead and send in your questions to me as they come up for you throughout the presentation using the questions feature in your control panel. You'll type your question into the top box and then push send, and that will come to me, and I'll put it into the queue to be answered during the Q&A period. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use that same questions feature to get my attention, and I'll do my best to resolve the problem for you. We will be sharing a recording of the webinar as well as the PowerPoint slides with you after the program today, so keep an eye on your email box for information on how to access those materials. For those of you attending live, you'll also receive a certificate of completion for joining us today. So let's get started. I'm pleased to welcome today's speaker, Jackie Murray. Jackie has been teaching K-8 technology for 30 years. She is the editor and/or author of more than 100 EdTech resources, including a K-8 technology curriculum, K-8 keyboard curriculum, and K-8 digital citizenship curriculum. In addition, you'll find Jackie contributing and sharing her expertise with educators in many ways, including as an adjunct professor, master teacher, webmaster for 4 blogs, an Amazon Vine voice reviewer, a CAEP reviewer, CSTA presentation reviewer, freelance journalist on EdTech topics, and a contributor to NEA Today and TeachHub. You can find many of her resources at structuredlearning.net. And I do encourage you to check out that website. Jackie has a lot of wonderful information to share and blogs and resources. We are excited to have Jackie with us today, and we're looking forward to learning about all of her recommendations for promoting digital citizenship with our students. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the program over to her now.
Thank you, Emily. What a wonderful introduction. Today, we're going to talk about how you can teach your students to be good digital citizens in a virtual world that seems anonymous, forgiving, and probably the way early settlers considered the Wild West. But it's none of those things. It's certainly not anonymous. It doesn't forgive anything, and it's as dangerous as any physical community kids might enter by themselves. And that's what we have to get across to students. But this isn't a complicated lesson. Behaving well in the digital world is no different from what is expected of them in their own neighborhood. As a town has laws, as a town is safe or dangerous, so too the digital world. I often am asked when to start these sorts of lessons, and the answer is easy. You start as soon as kids pick up a digital device, and certainly by kindergarten. Topics we're going to cover today are digital rights and responsibilities, like Netiquette. We're very familiar with your rights in using the internet, but most people aren't really familiar with responsibilities, what's expected of them. Second, internet safety, like digital privacy and passwords, those sorts of things. Third, a really big topic, cyberbullying. Lots of ways to address it and things to understand about it. Fourth is the legal side of the internet, and we're going to talk about copyrights, plagiarism, and a specific focus on images. And then social media. How do you use that platform with all of its misunderstood sides? All right, I'd like you to have 5 takeaways today. First, what's the easiest way to teach internet safety? And there is easy ways. It's actually fits into most subjects, so you'll be surprised at some of this. Second, I'm going to give you 14 proven strategies for dealing with cyberbullies. Next, I know you probably understand your rights, but you might not and probably don't know your responsibilities about using the internet, so we're going to go over those. Next, online images. They can be safely used at school or home, but why and how do you do that? And then last, how do you keep kids safe on social media? Simple, really simple answer to that most experts recommend is teach them how to use it. Well, we'll start with digital rights and responsibilities. This is defined as the privileges and freedoms extended to digital users and the behavioral expectations that come with them. Students who use the internet are expected to do so ethically, and they bear responsibility to keep it a safe and healthy environment for everyone. Let's go through some of the rights and responsibilities. So the rights, they're going to sound familiar to you. The right to access online material, of course. The right to freedom of expression. Yes, we can write whatever we want on there. Freedom of speech. The right to privacy. This gets a little stickier. You think your privacy is respected, but what about other people's? And that's one of the rights. The right to credit for personal works. When you put something up there, you should get credit in the way you expect it. And then the right to personal identity. No one else should have the right to take your identity online. So working right along with those are the responsibilities that make those rights happen. Responsibility to report bullying, harassing, and identity theft. Responsibility to cite works used for resources, not just text, but images, audio, video, all of them. The responsibility to legally download material. If you know that song you love is from an illegal site, I almost named one, but I don't want to do that, then you don't go there. You go somewhere safe that's legal. Responsibility to keep data and information safe from hackers. And this is your information. It's your responsibility to make it hard for hackers to get it. It's not someone else's, it's yours. The responsibility not to falsify your identity in any way. You don't go on and pretend you're something when you're something else. That's one of your responsibilities, is not to do that. When you get this slide deck, you're going to see these rights and responsibilities listed as 10 commandments. The Information Security Education and Awareness Group put these together as a very nice way to teach kids about the rights and responsibilities. I won't go over them. They're the same things we just talked about. They're just a different way of presenting it that might work better for you. So we'll start with talking about netiquette. Netiquette sounds just like etiquette because it's very similar. The goal of netiquette, like etiquette, is to provide a cultural framework through which billions of internet visitors can get along. Etiquette is for a town or a classroom or a small group. Netiquette is for billions of people. Sounds daunting, and it is. Here's a nice poster you may grab. You have permission to grab it, put it on your wall, that covers basic netiquette rules. It starts out by being human. Be human, be yourself, be kind, be the type of person you want to be. Second, follow the same rules of behavior you follow in real life on the internet. So if you don't steal from people or bully people in real life, don't do it on the internet. Be aware of your digital footprint. In real life, there isn't much of a footprint. People can't really follow you around unless they can see you or smell you. But on the internet, everything you do leaves a trail, and you're very easy to follow. So be aware of that. Next, share your knowledge. The internet is about everyone learning from everyone else. All boats rise when one does. We want to encourage that. So if you know the answer to something someone else doesn't, and they're asking about it, share your knowledge. They can decide how they're going to use that or pick someone else's opinion, but you want to share it and be part of their solution. Next, help keep flame wars under control. Flame wars are when people are yelling at each other. Usually this will happen in some sort of social media, discussion board, a forum, something like that. And you're caught in the middle of it. So you have a responsibility within your abilities and your comfort level of controlling those. We'll talk more about that later. Respect other people's privacy. By doing that, you will respect your own. If you wouldn't give personal private information out, don't ask people for theirs either. Don't tempt them. And last, be forgiving of other people's mistakes. They're innocent till proven guilty. They don't mean to do things and sometimes do it by accident. Maybe they're from a country that thinks whatever they said or did was okay, but in your country it isn't. So be forgiving. Couple warnings about your presence on the internet. The internet is multinational. Cultural rules in your home may not be relevant. So before you push send, reread what you've written. How would someone with a different cultural background interpret your words? And one more warning, your words are all eFriends see. They can't see your facial expressions, body movements, hand gestures, voice inflection. They see only your words, maybe a static image, maybe a GIF you were able to get up there, but really it's what you're writing. Since half of communication in the real world is body language, that puts you at a serious disadvantage. Accept that, but be sensitive to it. Things like humor and sarcasm just don't go well on the internet. People don't see that little wink or the twinkle in your eye or the grin you put at the end of something. They just hear the words. Another caution is be cautious of writing protocols. People judge by grammar and spelling on the internet, even vocabulary. I'm not talking about text messages, that's its own animal, but most other places, they will think less of you or judge you, let's just say judge you by your grammar and spelling. Reread everything before sending it so it's your best. Use your spell checker. Okay, in each of these sections, I'm going to include resources that you'll find helpful for yourself in understanding or teaching students. So this page, you'll find resources to use for Netiquette. So our next topic is internet safety. When teaching about internet safety, the easiest way is to explain it to kids that it's like their own neighborhood, their physical neighborhood, and leave it at that. And they can bring it up and show the relationship to whatever rules they were taught in their own neighborhood and how it relates to the virtual one. Don't cross the street, don't go play in someone else's yard, those types of things. Relate them all to the internet where they'll be. So we'll go through a couple of them. Don't talk to strangers. Oh, by the way, this poster, feel free. You have my permission to grab it, post it on your wall, share it out any way you want. Don't talk to strangers. Don't go places you don't know, meaning don't go to a link you don't know anything about. Don't click on it. Don't go anywhere that the teacher doesn't allow or doesn't suggest if you're of that age, or that you aren't sure is safe if you're older. Play fair. No cyberbullying. No theft of online media. Pick carefully who and what you trust. You don't just trust everyone because they walked up to you. You are cautious about that. Don't get distracted by bling, and bling is ads and marketing links. Those are all over and they're hoping to distract you with them. So don't let that happen. Sometimes stop everything and take a nap. This is actually getting to be a bigger deal as digital devices take over education. Teachers, parents are worrying about screen time. So yes, stop everything, take a nap. Just like TV used to be, now it's computer screens. A few topics I want to discuss briefly that you'll want to discuss with students: logins, avatars, hacking, and pop-ups. So logins, students run into them in kindergarten. They need them to get on the computer. Explain why they have a login, a username and password. When using them, no one can get into the computer or site or that student's identity profile without them. So it's a safety thing. Avatars, they're not a student picture. That's a student picture. An avatar is something that represents you but doesn't look like you, much as a handle hides your real name on Twitter and other places. The purpose is to protect your online privacy. Your friends will know an avatar is you, other people won't. So you create it to protect yourself. Hacking. Hacking has become a warm, fuzzy thing. How to hack first grade, how to hack music class. It's turned into a different way of saying shortcuts or tips, but it really isn't. Hacking is how bad guys access your digital devices without your permission, often for nefarious purposes. Give you viruses, worms, Trojan horses, something like that. Teach students that hacking is dangerous. They must be wary of it. And then pop-ups. Pop-ups are windows, mostly used for marketing, that open without the user's permission. They're often generated to sell you something. They're annoying and, sad to say, effective. So you have to teach students to avoid them. They're not there as another topic to cover. They're there to distract them. I put this slide in to give you topics to talk with parents about. Now, as a tech teacher, I'm always getting questions from parents about how to keep the internet safe for their kids. So these are 5 first steps that they can take. First of all, teach children to use the internet. Don't assume they're digital natives. They arrived knowing how. They didn't. You have to teach them. Now, the teaching could come from the teacher at school, could come from the parent, could come from a partnership of both. Second, use parental control filters, but assume they aren't perfect. Stay vigilant. Be aware that when the child is too quiet or too noisy, something might be going on. Ask questions. Pop in unexpectedly. You want the child comfortable with you being involved in their lives, not as an arbiter of right and wrong, but as an interested, loving party. Next, enforce the rules. You're going to make rules for internet use. Follow them. Don't decide you're too tired one night to check a website, or just this once they can go on there because they've gone on it before. Always follow your own rules. Next, check history on your child's computer. Do it with them. Let them see you doing it and know you're not hiding anything. You just want to see where they've been and if there's any places that you need to help them with or explain to them. And fifth, know what is being taught to the child to keep them online at school. Follow the same rules if you can, or explain the differences between your rules. It's fine to have your own rules. The child just wants to know the difference. They'll get used to both of them. Don't even worry about that. And they just want to know, why are you doing it differently? Resources for internet safety. A lot of these are for students, really fun ones. Cover the basics of internet safety, a lot more than I've said in this slideshow because we were limited with time. So they should be really valuable for you. Okay, internet safety also is the footprint in privacy. So a digital footprint is the personal information that exists on the internet as a result of online activity. It includes everything: words, photographs, audio, video, uploads to sites, posts to YouTube and Facebook, everything. 2 notable items. A digital footprint is permanent. It's not like prints in wet sand that are washed away. They're like prints in cement. They are permanent. Once you place them there, they don't go away. You're stuck with that baby picture from 2 days old, still there when you graduate from high school. Students should know many search out digital footprints and are influenced by what they find. It doesn't matter if it was a one-off sort of thing. That's what they see about you, so they are influenced by it. Now, students might think, well, that's okay. I can catalog my life online because I have nothing to hide, and everyone does it. Somehow that makes it safe, but neither is true. They do have something to hide, and everyone doesn't do it. How to manage your digital footprint. There are ways to do it, and then good starter steps for students. Keep their profile private. Don't share it with people. Don't put all that information out there. Just don't. Choose who to friend on social media. Do it carefully. Lots of people might ask you to be their friend, and it's your choice. And you should only friend people you know. Don't share personal information in any digital communication. Just don't. That's out there. Anyone can grab it, not just the person you sent it to. Don't share logins. That's really, that person you shared it with is your best friend this week, might not be next week. If you find for some reason you shared logins, change them immediately. Don't download anything from the internet unless you're sure of the site. And it's a very small number. Don't open attachments unless you're sure they're safe. In my world, my friends and I, we have a code. They have to put the code on the email or the text or whatever they send me to tell me this link or this download is safe. If I don't see the code, I don't touch them. It's too easy for hackers to grab everyone's address book and send out something to them saying, hey, look at this great picture. You think it's from a trusted friend, it's from a hacker. Passwords. this is the first line of defense against hacking. If creating a password that satisfies a website's criteria and remembering it, that's difficult, and it often dissuades people from creating one that really is effective. It used to be good enough to use a birthday or a maiden name, but because who would think of that? But now everyone does, because you put them all over your Facebook and Twitter page. So you can't use those, but you have to have a password. For many people, that's their only defense. So the stronger your password is, the better. It's interesting to note that password theft is one of the fastest growing crimes. So creating passwords is problematic. Developers know that. So they have other steps you can take to secure your accounts, like two-step authentication, which requires a password and then something else. Google requires it. Lots of teachers hate it, but it's a good, safe way to protect accounts. It's a piece of information that only the user would know, or on a cell phone that they have, no one else does. Another one is to notify users when abnormal logins occur. I get these all the time from MailChimp, and I don't mind it ever, because they're telling me something's going on I might not approve of. If I don't approve of it, I tell them, and we take care of it right away. If you get these from Google or PayPal or anyone, address it. Never just wash over them. Handle it. Multi-factor authentication uses a fingerprint or facial recognition software, or the one-time code we talked about, a second way to authenticate that it's really you. One I really like is the steganographic login. This is based on an image. Now, you put an image up there and it just looks like a pretty picture, but the image is coded to require a finger swipe or a tap in some spot or in the cat's eye or whatever before it'll let you get in. It's a very clever way. Most people aren't familiar with it, so it's pretty effective. Next topic is cyberbullying. Big topic. Cyberbullying is bullying, but the weapon is technology. The bullies want to intimidate victims, spread rumors, target them mentally, emotionally, or visibly using digital media. Often, these people remain anonymous. If they're found out, they call it a joke. They refuse to accept that what they're doing can cause irreparable harm. It's widespread. Statistics show about 21% of students ages 12 to 18 have experienced bullying, and 16% of high school students were bullied in a 12-month period. Those are big numbers. So mostly these people will just ignore it, try to recover from it. It's up to us as teachers to give them some tools to recognize that this happens, to affirm that they aren't victims and there's things they can do, strategies they can use to handle this. Before we get into those, let's talk about why it happens. If you have any sort of a functioning moral compass, it beggars belief that people would enjoy causing pain to others. Cyberbullies are often everyday kids with no idea of the damage they're doing to other people. Their profile is as disturbingly common as it is unremarkable. Children with these tendencies select online bullying as their weapon of choice because it's anonymous. They don't think they'll get caught. They would like to bully in the real world, but they can't. Maybe they're testing a bully persona to see if it works for them. And it could simply be an outlet for their anger. They're very angry and they don't know how else to share that anger, get rid of it. It's good to point out that cyberbullying is illegal in many places. It's against the law in many states and countries. It varies. The laws will vary. So there's no way to say this is illegal and that's the way it is, because it varies too much. But many states, nations, areas are legislating strict consequences against cyberbullying. Sometimes just that is enough to dissuade a cyberbully from engaging. They don't want to break the law. They just wanted to have some fun. Now, you as a teacher, how can you prevent cyberbullying? One step you can take, if your class has a blog or website that accepts comments, is to approve them before they post. Yes, that adds extra work, but we'll cut harassing comments down quickly. When you find one, talk to the student. Find out what's going on with them and how you can help. Chances are she or he doesn't recognize this is inappropriate. Early intervention on your part could make a big difference in their future. And if you have blogs or social media sites that require that ask for conversation with students, prominently list the rules of the website or the location, and it should always include respect. Now, students can take a part in preventing cyberbullying. They can think before posting, and these are students so they prevent themselves from unknowingly cyberbullying. Think before posting. Ask, would I feel okay if the comment I'm about to post referred to me? Don't post gossip. Just don't. That puts it in writing, something that can go all over the place where the simple whispered in the ear doesn't. And never post anything personal about others or yourself, but that's their secret to tell. It's no one else's. So if a student is being cyberbullied, there are strategies they can adopt to help. It's interesting that Dr. Martin Luther King, his quote is spot on. In the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friend. Research shows others speaking out or taking action stops bullying half the time within seconds. As teachers, it's our job to be upstanders. But students, we want them to do what they're comfortable doing, but we want them to know that not being a victim is the best strategy. So passive strategies they can use when they're threatened with cyberbullying. It's simply leave the area. If it happens in a chat room or online game or wherever they are, just leave. Come back later when that person's gone. Another one is to block the sender. Don't have to listen to them. You don't have to give them access. They'll move on to something else. And if enough people do it, they'll give up. Third is don't engage. Don't respond. Don't defend yourself. Don't try to talk them out of it. Nothing. Don't engage. Just ignore them. Often that will discourage them because no one's talking to them. Another really good one is to forward harassing messages to the internet service provider. Most of them have acceptable use policies, AUPs, that restrict bullying, and they'll take care of it. More active strategies are don't let online people flame. If you hear that going on, you could leave. The passive strategy would be to leave, or you can step in and tell them to stop, that it's not productive, no one wants to listen to them, or get an adult to help with that. Keep evidence of cyberbullying. Take a screenshot. Save the links so you can share it where you need to. Express support for the victim, as simple as I disagree. Get your friends to do the same. Tell the bully to stop. Just say, stop, we're not interested. That often that will affect them. Certainly don't laugh or encourage the bully. It's fun to hear a joke, but if it's at someone else's expense, it's not funny to that person or that person's friends. So don't laugh or encourage. Here's some resources you can use for cyberbullying. A lot of really good ones because it's a big deal. Some difficult videos are out there that you can share with students when you feel they're ready, but they're very effective. Okay, our fourth topic is really the legal side of digital citizenship. This is copyrights, plagiarism, images. After internet safety, this is probably the first set of breaks we deliver to students who are using the internet. We tell them, you can't plagiarize, you can't use that, you have to think about this all the time. Digitally delivered content is everywhere, but few understand the legalities of usage and sharing. It's not uncommon to have parents and fellow teachers not follow the correct legal steps when using online material, thus providing inaccurate role models for students. How many of you have seen colleagues provide a link back to an image and think that's all they needed to do. You'll find out later that may or may not be right. Very likely isn't. Before I go any further, I want to make it clear I am not a lawyer. What I share here is based on my experience, mistakes I've made, and research I've done preparing for these sorts of presentations. For legal issues, contact a lawyer. This poster, which you're welcome to grab and put on the wall in your classroom, simplifies American copyright law with the fair use exclusion that makes it legal for you and students to use online images. It summarizes to say the law states that works of art created in the US after January 1st, 1978 are automatically protected by copyright once they are fixed in a tangible medium, like the internet. But a single copy may be used for scholarly research or in teaching preparation to teach a class, which is, so my images I used in preparing for this class, I could have used any I wanted. Now, I chose public domain ones just to be on the safe side. And that way, if you wanted to share it out somewhere else, you can do that because I used public domain. It's good to note, I've said American copyright law, but these laws differ throughout the world. This unit deals with commonly accepted guidelines, but are aligned with the laws of the United States. So they'll be different depending upon where you are. Some myths about using online material. I can copy paste anything posted to the internet. Creators know this will happen. No, wrong. You need to find out what the creator and the website allows or requires before you use their material. Next, I can copy paste anything as long as I give proper credit. Wrong again. Yes, sometimes, but no other times. And you have to know the difference. It's up to you to know the difference. For example, you can't copyright Nelson DeMille's latest novel because you gave him credit. That infringes on his rights. I think everyone would look at that and understand it. Next, I searched the site and didn't find a copyright, so I can use anything I want. Wrong again. If you can't find the website's use policy, don't use it. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. The courts will not accept the argument that you tried. And the last one, the internet is anonymous. I won't get caught. Wrong. If you plagiarize, just expect to be caught. I'm going to cover 4 areas of the legal aspects of this. And I'm going to do it quickly just to make you familiar with them. Legal copyrights, fair use, Creative Commons, and public domain. Okay, the legal copyright is when a person holds the legal right to all distribution and use of the media. In the absence of any other permissions, you can't use these materials without getting the permission of the creator. Fair use. This is a complicated law. It applies to much more than education, but for educational use purposes, it provides the legal use of one copy of media for education. That covers you if you're the teacher or student, but only for educational purposes. So if you're a student and you love that picture and you used it in a project at school and now go home and want to use it for a birthday card for someone, one was legal, the other's illegal. So be cautious. Next is Creative Commons. They've done a great job of putting together a way for you to share the permissions that you allow. It can be anything from no copyright at all to only allowed after discussing it with the creator. The options on the right side shows you all the little icons they use. If you go to Creative Commons, you'll find all of this really clear and really great if you're a creator to include this sort of thing on your website. The bottom one, all rights reserved. That's the way it is sometimes. Public domain is what we love. So the creator retains no rights to their media. Users can use it for any purpose with no attribution, link back, credit, citation, nothing. Some of the reasons might be that the copyright expired, which could be for lots of reasons, one of which is that it's more than 70 years after the creator's death. Another, the copyright owner failed to renew the copyright, or the copyright owner deliberately placed it in the public domain, which is known as a dedication. In general terms, you have to cite sources for facts not commonly known or accepted, exact words or unique phrases, reprints of diagrams, illustrations, charts, pictures, those kinds of visuals. Statistics are good. You maybe don't necessarily have to, but they might contradict other statistics. So you want to cite your source. Opinions that support research. People have clever, erudite opinions that they base on a lifetime of knowledge. You can't just steal their opinion and act like you thought it up. You have to give them credit. If you purchase a paper online, you can't submit it as your own. You have to give credit. Or if you copy, this one surprises people, if you copy your own work for a new purpose without confessing to it, you're plagiarizing. You're plagiarizing yourself, but you're plagiarizing. Times when you don't have to are facts. Mount Everest is 29,029 feet tall. Common knowledge, there's 50 states in the Union. Media that's in the public domain, or a small amount of someone's creation without their permission. Writers, journalists use that all the time in quoting books that they're reviewing. But a small amount means different things to different people, so be really cautious about that. When I teach professional development classes, by far the topic that surprises teachers the most is the legal use of online images. And they're not alone. On my blog, in educator forums, in virtual meetings I moderate, there's a lot of confusion about what can be grabbed for free from online sites and what must be cited. When I receive guest posts that include pictures, often they'll tell me that I can use the picture because they have a link back, but that's not always true. In fact, the answer to the question, what online images can I use, typically ends with, it depends. So I did this experiment in one of my grad school classes. The topic they were covering used a lot of images. So I asked them to use correct citations with the images, so we knew everything was legal, even though this is students using it for educational purposes. They weren't going to break any laws by not doing it, but I wanted to see if they understood. So it was interesting. Lots of mistakes, innocent mistakes, but lots of mistakes, misunderstandings. First, my students thought they protected themselves by providing a URL. Well, that's not true. This picture is from Reader's Digest. The student provided the URL, but if you go to that website, Reader's Digest specifically says that if you want to use any content on their site, you must get their approval. And they're not going to give it, by the way. So that doesn't work. So the link back just tells Reader's Digest how to find you, because then it shows up on their list of stuff, and then they can sue you or give you a takedown notice or something like that. Some students thought the watermark on the image, like Shutterstock, said, okay, that's credit. Now everyone knows where I got it, so I've given them credit, so I'm good. Well, no. Shutterstock sells their images. They put the watermark there figuring who would post a picture with a watermark on it. But they have a little bot that goes and finds all the images posted every day that have the Shutterstock watermark, and then they know how to find you and ask you to pay them for it, or sue you, or whatever they decide to do. And you think they'd be kind? They aren't always kind. So you don't even want to risk this. Next is, didn't find any citation, any copyright rules on the page, so I don't have to do anything. But the rule of thumb is if you can't find guidelines, don't use the image. It doesn't matter if you love the image, if you really searched hard. If you can't find the permissions, don't use it. Big one, international. I've touched on this a little bit. This image is from the United Kingdom. The student posted it thinking, okay, that's fine. If you don't know the UK fair use guidelines, you can't use it. I don't know what they are, so I can't even give you any guidance there. I'd have to research it and find out if that was usable. So if you don't know the laws in that country, just don't use them. Go to find images from your country where you know the rules. And this one's a little tricky. This particular site seemed to allow copies. So the student thought, that's fine. But when I looked at the detail, it really wasn't clear. They started by saying most of the pictures are free and everyone knows you can copy them and don't worry about it. But that word most, that I'm going to be the one who grabs the picture that isn't covered, and then I'm going to be in trouble. So if it says most, I'm just not going to go there. It's not worth the trouble that I would get. All right, copyrights. How do you ensure your images are safe? And this is if you're the creator. First, add a copyright notice. A lot of people do, like that one we showed further up in the stream. They looked for copyright notice, couldn't find it, assumed it was okay. So put one on your website, make it prominent, easy to find. Second, model good behavior to colleagues and students. Make it a habit to not use images that aren't freely available. Push back on that. When you see an image that someone used and it wasn't correct, call them on it. Third, occasionally grab one of your personal creative artworks that you've posted online, or one from a student, even better, and drop it into images.google.com or TinEye to see where it has been used online. It's going to surprise you. The figure on the left is a first grader's drawing that we posted on the school website, and it to share with family and friends, but then it was saved in 47 different locations. Now, you could zoom in, but what you'd find is some of those places that student might not have approved of it being used on. So I don't want my artwork used someplace that is against my culture or beliefs. Next, go to safe sites like Pixabay, Wikiimage, Pixels that give public domain images that you're sure are public domain. That even they could make mistakes, but these three I trust, and there'll be others, but go to those kinds of places, skip the rest. The last one, and maybe the best, is make your own images. Students love doing that. Let them make their own drawings. There's lots of online drawing sites that do a pretty darn good job of drawings. So get them used to those, have them make their own, and then that's their image. Now it's copyrighted to them. Here's a list of resources you can use about copyrights. These, I have a lot that are really good for teachers. I have a couple for students. So go ahead and look through them and pick what works for you. All right, our last topic is social media. The overarching question about this is, how do we keep kids safe on a platform they want to use and is open to everyone? The answer is simple. Teach them to use it. Don't shy away from this. The experts say teach them. Let them see, and then they'll decide the best way. They'll get used to using it the best way. Billions of people use Facebook and Twitter and social media. 80% of internet users, about 70% are high school or under. It crosses all sexes, all income levels. It has become the method of choice to share information, collaborate, and update each other. One of the first places many people go for news is social media. This is why Twitter changed their app categorization from social media, aka gossip, to news a few years ago. Why should you as a teacher use social media? Besides all those reasons we just talked about, social media meets students where they want to learn. So it's a great place to go because they want to learn there. Parents go to social media for information. So if you have something to tell them, they're going to get that much faster if you put it on a social media site like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram than if you put it on some dedicated parent information site, because they go there all the time. They're going to see it. Third, and a really big one, is it engages shy students. It's not face-to-face. It's not on the clock. Lots of people are more comfortable posting their thoughts and ideas without a clock ticking or faces looking at them or eyes staring at them. That's what social media does. They can look at what they're ready to post, decide if it's perfect, and then push send. There are tons of social media platforms: blogs, discussion boards, Twitter, Pinterest, chat rooms, Facebook, Instagram, lots of them. Couple rules will apply to all of these because they have a gossipy reputation. They're rules you want to follow in the classroom. Start out by clearing the use with your administration. Make sure they understand what you're doing, why you're doing it. And then inform parents that their children will be using whatever it is, whatever the social media is, Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Twitter doesn't have a lower age limit. They recommend 13, but most of the others do, and it's 13. So if you're not teaching high school students, be cautious. Use a class account, something else, because otherwise you're going to upset a lot of people and you're going to go against the protocols for that site. A lot of them also let you mark a stream, like Twitter stream, as private, calling it protected tweets. That way no one except people you've approved will get access to that. Real plus. I like that a lot. Establish rules for Twitter use, but all use of any of these platforms. That is for educational purposes, nothing else. Okay. I'm getting close on my time, but I think let's go through these a little quickly. Blogs are one of my favorite social media platforms. If you aren't blogging with your students, you're missing out on one of the most effective tools available for improving student literacy. Blogs are easy to use. They're fun for students. They encourage creativity and problem solving. They allow for reflection and feedback. They enable publishing and sharing of work and fulfill many of the standards that you're required by your state, Common Core, or other guidelines that you might be struggling with. Aside from literacy, standards like Common Core want students to become accomplished in a variety of intangible skills that promote learning in college and career readiness. Blogs do that. When you're ready to begin blogging, this list of rules are great to get the buy-in of all your students on. Give them this, have a signature line at the bottom, and make them agree to all of them. I won't go over them right now. You have it, you can download it. Blogging is also a great way to reach parents instead of the old style newsletter, because blogs are very often can be shared across platforms to Twitter or Facebook or wherever else their parents are visiting, and you reach them easily. Okay, Instagram and Pinterest, I don't think I probably need to say much about those. Their terms of service are no usage under 13. So be cautious with those. If you're not a high school teacher, skip them. Forums and discussion boards are really good ways to engage students in conversation. They're very similar in what they have. Usually it's the timeline and the response time that makes a difference. They can be managed to be a safe and healthy tool for education. Chat rooms, very popular in schools. They are usually tied in with your LMS. So you have a chat room where you can post a question and have students respond to it. And that way you collect answers, their thoughts on a topic in the closed garden of the LMS. No one else can get in there, and the students can see what other people are writing, and it'll jog them to think of things. That's a great way to engage in conversation and encourage perspective taking with students. Facebook is so popular that I just won't even say much more about it. Lots of people have Facebook pages for lots of different reasons. So think about it before you would ever engage students on it. But high school, it could be a reasonable use for you. Twitter, same idea. I love Twitter. There's so many ways to use it. It forces students to think in small amounts, 280 characters. They have to come up with put their whole idea into 280 characters. It also lets you put images and videos, so it's great that way. and then they retweet it and they all share thoughts. With hashtags, you can have a stream that everyone finds easily. So I'm a real fan of Twitter. All right. That's a real quick overview of social media. If you need to contact me or want to discuss things, I love talking about technology and education. My Gmail is askatechteacher@gmail.com. My Twitter handle is askatechteacher. My blog is askatechteacher.com, and you can find it in my resources on structuredlearning.net. Feel free to contact me and ask whatever's going on. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. I'd love to answer your questions.
Well, thank you, Jackie. This has been extremely informative and given us all a lot of great information that we can put into practice right away, and lots of great resources. So everyone, just rest assured you are going to get a copy of this PowerPoint deck. So if you didn't have a chance to write things down or wanted to revisit any of Jackie's strategy or download some of those posters that she offered, you will be getting access to that in an email that we'll be sending out later tonight. So keep an eye on your inbox for that, and we've also recorded the program, so you'll be able to listen to it again or share it with your colleagues. Per Jackie's information about copyright, you're absolutely free to share this information. We would love for you to. So we're going to give Jackie just a quick break here before we get to the Q&A, and I'd like to thank our sponsor, NetRef. As Jackie shared with us, there are so many things our students need to be aware of as consumers and producers of digital media, and that's where NetRef can really help in the classroom. NetRef is a simple-to-use application that provides every teacher with the ability to choose which websites and apps their whole class or individual students can access at different points during the school day. Teachers can also see what websites or apps students are using at any given time so that they can redirect for learning. NetRef also enables administrators to monitor website and app usage at the classroom and school level, and this is great information to demonstrate how technology tools integrate into the school day and which resources are being used most. NetRef works on any device and doesn't require any downloads to individual devices, which makes it super easy to use and manage, especially if you're a one-to-one or a BYOD school. So I encourage you to take a few moments to learn more about NetRef at net-ref.com. You can find out more about how this really great tool can help you and your school teach these digital citizenship skills that are so critical to our students' success. All right, let's get to a couple of our questions. And I think this is a great one. Jackie, I'm not sure you have an answer for it, but we'll start with it. Do you have any resources or recommendations on how to measure students' digital citizenship aptitude, things like quizzes or checklists?
I do in my scope and sequences that I have available under my resources, because it breaks it down by grade. If you go into the digital citizenship curricula that I publish, it shows you by grade level what they would be expected to know. So it is a checklist. And they grow. I mean, you start with simple things and they grow. You don't get into commerce, digital commerce till 6th grade, that sort of thing. So, but by 6th grade, they need to understand digital commerce, which we didn't even touch on here. So yes, they're really good checklists. I don't have, they're not online. They're just through my curriculum.
Okay. Great. And again, folks can find that at structuredlearning.net.
Yes.
Perfect. Great.
Or send me an email and I'll give you the direct link so you don't have to search around to find it. That would be fine.
Oh, that's nice. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for offering that. Here is another really great question. Can you share any tips on how to turn your students into teachers around digital citizenship so that they can help their peers and friends and maybe even younger brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I definitely do that, because once they learn the rules and understand them, then I want them to help each other with that. So you cover things once, and then if they ask again or you see them doing something wrong, like they went to a YouTube video and instead of being on the YouTube video, they went to the stream on the right-hand side, which 2nd graders do all the time, then you explain to them first time you explain to them why that didn't work, and the next time you ask them, what did we do last time, sort of thing. And then they can share that knowledge with their neighbors, with other kids, because if you explain why, they understand it and they want to They want to do that. So that's how I do it.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah. And I do. I think sometimes our students can be the most powerful teachers for their peers. So
Oh, true.
enlisting their help in this subject matter, I think, is a great idea. You had mentioned in a couple different places kind of about teachers modeling good digital citizenship. So someone's asked, what do you think the number one lesson teachers should take away from digital citizenship is, and how should they practice it in their own lives?
You know, a couple big areas, like use of images. They should do it the right way. They should not go to the teacher's lounge and copy pages from a book. They should not just assume an image is a link. I can provide a link. They have the exclusion with fair use, but if they use it, they should explain it. So that would be the biggest one. That way, when they go to their everyday life outside of school, that they have those, they understand why that no longer applies. And then same with cyberbullying. If start discussing it early and do it often, so that students, when they are bullied, and 1 in 5 will be every year, they will come to you and ask about it and want to not be victims. So if you model that of being aware of it and discussing it with them, then they will be more likely to fight against it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think highlighting things and not hiding them in the shadow, I think helps students feel comfortable and give them voice and confidence when these things may happen to them online. Or just even less serious than cyberbullying, but when they have questions about what's right and wrong online. If you're sharing with them what you do and the decisions you make, I think that's a great open classroom environment.
Exactly.
Let's see. So how do you feel that digital citizenship promotes critical thinking skills?
Oh, it absolutely does. I think technology in general does, because students, there's not just 5 things that they're going to face that they can memorize answers to. They have to understand the whole thing and then apply it to other lessons they've had. So where they know they might go to YouTube and I'm not supposed to click outside of this, will they be aware that when they go to coolmath.com, that they then can't click on all the other fun things around it? And if they understand and the bigger picture, then they can critically make those decisions. So and same with digital, any sort of problems they face, if they understand the underlying reasons, then they will apply them to new situations. So I'm a real believer that transparency and explaining, and then not doing for them, asking them, how did we do it before? How has your neighbor solved this? How have you solved it before? Is the way to address these.
Yeah, and I think so many times on whatever the technology tool is online or some app, we run into things we didn't think were going to happen, or problems occur, and it really does teach us how to problem solve and think critically. So yeah, just like you said, the mere use of using technology is going to help build those skills for students. In the classroom or within a school environment, this is sort of not a subjective question, but I don't know if you have a stat on it. I guess, how frequently do you feel that the schools or classroom technology are being hacked, and how worried do we need to be about our students' information and privacy within a school environment?
You would like to think it isn't often, that they have strong barriers, but we've seen on the news how everything is hacked. So it's hard to say, but you have to go into it assuming it will be. Teachers, I had an experience as a teacher in a school, and I was able to get into all the health records from a group that operated on the campus for students. It wasn't part of the school, but it was on the campus. I was able to, with my minimal skills, hack into that and get all those health records. It was very disturbing to me. So you have to assume it's happening and do your best to make people aware when it happens or not share more than you need to. Because there's no way around it anymore.
Yeah, I think back to your advice on passwords and not clicking on emails that you don't know who they're from. All those kinds of things I think are so important and can help to a degree, keeping those hackers out of our environments. So it looks we're coming to the end of our time, but we'll take this final question, and it is around parents. How, as classroom teachers, can we engage parents in promoting digital citizenship at home with their children?
By being transparent about it. I very often I'll have parents come in because they're surprised what I taught the child, and I take that opportunity to teach the parent, to explain it. But another step I used was to have parent classes that were around what students were learning. And so I'd throw out questions like screen time. And I'd know questions that I knew was on their mind. How do you control screen time with your child, sort of thing. And then we'd talk about that and wrap that back into digital citizenship sort of topics or other topics. And I would use those opportunities whenever I could get them to engage parents. I would have parents that don't want their students on the internet for all of these frightening reasons, but I would have a conversation with them rather than just let it go by and explain it to them, not to talk them into anything, but to educate them. Parents are they're very interested, but they're not knowledgeable. No one is really knowledgeable about what's going on. So you address it with, I want to help you. You're my partner in this. So let's figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, and we actually just had an educator write in that her school actually hosts some digital citizenship workshops for parents throughout the school year. So that's a great idea too, to give people who want that opportunity to learn to do that. So, well, thank you again, Jackie, and thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We really appreciate everyone taking the time, and especially appreciate Jackie sharing all this information. And again, you will get the PowerPoint slides and the recording, so keep an eye out for those. We also hope you'll mark your calendars for an upcoming webinar on February 20th that will feature Dr. Monica Burns. She'll be sharing strategies to help you evaluate EdTech tools and choose the best for your students' learning objectives. You'll find more about that webinar, and you can register at the NetRef website, which is net-ref.com. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks, Emily. It's been really fun.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.